Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm making a box for my pool balls because I bought some second-hand little balls like this, but they don't come with a box and I like to keep them in a box, so I'm just going to be making one. So I found a box that is about the size that I would like, and I've got some leftover stuff from a previous project, and it's just one of those mattress protectors that's got all these little divots in it, and I'm going to be using that to put inside my box because the balls fit quite nicely into those little divots. So we'll get started on that. I've just flipped the box upside down on top of my foam, and I'm just going to trace around the box, and then I'm going to cut that little piece of foam out. And we can check to see if it fits. It's just a little bit big, so I'm going to just trim that down a bit more. I've placed all the balls onto the main piece of foam so that I can get, so they're all sitting quite nicely. So the piece that we've just cut out, then we can place that on top, and as you can see, it fits on at a slight angle to the bottom one because obviously these are going at an angle like that. So now I'm going to trace around this little piece of foam, and so that when I put them into the box, they're lying straight. So I'm just going to cut the bottom piece of foam out now. I'm quite happy the way they're sitting in the box. I've left a tiny gap on the side there because this particular box closes in like that, so I need it to be able to go down this side. So now I can just glue the back closed, and the small other piece that we cut out fits beautifully on top, and there's a little bit of space here where I can put all my chalk. I've marked my box to the size that I want, so I've gone in by 6.5 centimeters on the two larger size and 4.5 centimeters on the shorter side. The length of my box is actually 31 centimeters, so that gives me 18.5 centimeters, very close to 19, and the smaller side is 14.5 centimeters. And now we're just going to go from side to side, and I've scored all the places that I want scored. And now I'm taking my box cutter and I'm just going to be cutting through the box in the center. So now everything is loose. So on all the score marks on the outer score, I'm just bending that inward. It's preferable to use a ruler so you can get a nice crisp edge to it when you bend it, because we're going against the grain of the cardboard. And then just bend the other three. So the box looks like that. And now with these ones, we're going to actually bend these ones upright. So in that direction, like that. So we've got our little indent, and now I'm going to be cutting out a piece of cardboard which is the exact same size as the little inner piece by measuring So what we're doing is we're actually cutting the size of that so it'll fit in. I've got my spare piece of cardboard marked out, and it's not ideal to have a bend like that, but that's all I've got to work with. And you need to measure the inside of the box, taking into account that you've got the flap here. So put your piece of cardboard in and mark about 2 millimeters short of what the inside measurement is, and mark both sides. And now I'm going to just cut that out. I've got my spare piece of box in, and now I'm going to take a glue gun and I'm going to just be gluing these tabs down at the back. I'm gluing the side that has got the bend in it first so that I can line it up properly. So just gluing this little piece at the top here. So I've got the first piece glued down, so that gives me my position to pull it back into place now, so I can glue the other sides down. And just glue all the sides down. To make the eye, I'm going to be using this little silicone mold, and I'm using this UV gel which I got from Kim's Crystals, and this particular one you need to time it for 2 to 4 minutes. So we just do that so long. That's quite a nice resin because it's self-leveling. And now we're just going to put it under the light for 2 minutes, and then we'll check it. I didn't like the shape of the other one because it's a little bit too flat, so I'm going to be using this little round one, and I'm only filling it up halfway. So I've just filled it sort of like halfway, and this one, because it's a little bit thicker, it's probably going to take 5 minutes. It's been under for 5 minutes now, and now I'm going to try and take it out. It's looking quite nice. It's got a bit of a bubble in it, but I'm not fussed about that. I've got my little piece of resin made, and now I'm just putting it onto a little piece of white cardboard and just going to trace around that so I can paint the inside of the eye. And then I'll just wait for that to dry before I glue the resin on top. I've got the piece all glued in, and now we can take our eye and position it in the place where we want to. So I'm going to go for about somewhere in the middle like that. I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue that in. And now we can start working on it. I'm going to be using T8000 just to put a few little drops on so that I can glue the resin on. And I don't know whether you can see, I put a white reflection on the eye because I've got a divot in mine just there, and I'm going to put that on top of that white reflection. So just like that. I'm just going to be using my homemade, I like to call it cornstarch clay, because it's so beautiful and smooth. If you would like to see how to make it, I'll leave a link in the description box below. So as you can see, it's really, really beautiful and pliable, and it holds its shape absolutely beautifully. I'm just using these little Play-Doh tools to put some little divots in around the eye, and now we'll continue building it up. I've got my granddaughter helping me, so if you see a little hand coming through, that's her little hand. While I'm waiting for my dragon to dry, I'm going to be painting the box, and I'm going to be using this, it's called Ace Black, and it's just by Tallman's, because I find it's not quite as bright as the artist's acrylic paint. So I'm going to just paint the whole box black. I've painted my box on the inside as well, so everything is dry, and now I can start working on the outside. To paint the outside, I've got some phthalo blue, and I've got some light green, which I've mixed together to give me a teal, and then I've got ultramarine blue, and over here I've got some crimson which I've mixed with some white, and I've got fluoro pink. There's no right way of painting this, just have fun with it and create a nice pattern. I'm just taking some of the colours, so this one is ultramarine blue, and just placing it in a few places like that. And then I've got some phthalo blue, same thing, just splidging it on. Some of the teal, which I'm just also blobbing on like that. And I'm just using a very fine sponge, and I'm just going to blend the colours in. So I'm quite happy with that particular pattern. So now I'm just taking some of the pink and putting it in as well. And then we can add some stars when this is all dry. And do the same on all the panels. I'm extremely happy how the colours have dried, and now I'm going to put some little stars on. So I'm just going to place a piece of paper so that it doesn't get any white paint, particularly on the eye. To do my stars, I've just got a soft brush, and it's got quite a lot of watered down white paint on it, and all I'm doing is just flicking my paint brush like that. Take the hair off that came out. And you can put as many stars on as you want. Some of the drops that came out a little bit big, all I'm doing is I'm taking a tiny little sponge like this, and I'm just blurring them so that they look like they've got a bit of a halo around them. So like that. I've got some leftover EVA foam, which is an old yoga mat, and this particular one is 4mm thick, and I'm going to be cutting them. I'm just using my ruler, which is a 2.5 centimeter ruler, Now these particular ones have got to be marked on both sides. So you've got one side for doing the pattern and then the other side for when we come to cut it out, because once I paint these all black, I won't see the cutting line. So that's why we do it at the back. Now I need 6 pieces at about 31 centimeters, 6 pieces at 25 centimeters, and 8 pieces at 14 centimeters. So I'm just going to mark those all up so I can start working on them. I've got all my pieces marked up, but looking at them, they look a little bit thick. So I'm actually going to be taking them down and making them just 1 centimeter. So I'll just remark those all. I remarked up all my pieces, and now the pieces that are going to be going onto the side, I'm keeping them as a solid piece. So it's the 1 centimeter on each side. So this one will be a 1, 2, 3, 4, which is for the corner pieces. And for the long pieces, because I want my box to be a little bit magical, I've marked them all off at 1 centimeter, and now I'm taking my little blade, which I got off Temu, and it comes in the form of a little pen, and then you just click, and I don't know whether you can see how tiny the little blade on that. And I'm going to just be doing some random little markings on my piece. So what I'll do is I'll draw it so that you can see some of the patterns that I'm going to be using. So now I want to try and get it in the middle of these so that they're not sticking out. So some of the and then I'm going to, so a bit like that, and then I'm going to take my little blade and just cut those patterns, but I'm just scoring the top of it. I'm not going all the way through. I don't know whether you can see what I've done there. And then I'm just going to do all the patterns down. You can choose whatever patterns you want to do. These are just some of the ones I'm doing. I've got all my patterns carved in, and now for the next step, it's advisable that whatever stuff that you don't need, to just cut that off. So I'm just going to be cutting this off so that if I want to use it in the future, I've got it to use. I've cut most of it off. I'm not particularly worried about this small section here. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my heat gun and on the low setting, and I'm going to just heat it, and all these little things will expand. And now it's ready for painting, and just do all of them the same. I find it easier to paint them all in one piece. You can, however, cut them small if that's what you choose, but I'm keeping them all together, and then that's why I've marked them at the back so I can cut them down later. So I'm just going to be using the same Ace Black paint by Tolman's to paint these pieces. Try and make sure that you're getting in each of the little grooves that you've expanded, and then just paint all of them like that. If you like the blue lettering or symbols like that, don't paint the inside of it, just leave it as is. But I want them to be black on the inside. When you get to this stage, you've got a choice as to what you want to do. You can either cut your pieces and paint each one individually, or you can just paint it all together and then paint the sides afterwards. I've got a rather rough sponge, and all I'm doing is taking some gold paint, and the paint that I'm using is rich gold, and all you're going to do is dip your sponge into the paint, take most of it off, so you've just got a little bit like that, because we're trying to get like a weathered look. So I've got just a tiny bit on my sponge, and then all you're going to do is just dab it on all over, so you get a bit of a weathered look. And as you can see, the writing then sticks out like that. And then just do all your pieces like that. My paint is all dry, and now we're going to cut them into the 1 centimeter strips. And make sure that you've got a sharp blade, because the EVA foam does tend to blunten your blades quite quickly. The pieces that I'm going to be putting on the side, I'm leaving them as doubles, and what you have to do is flip it over, and in the center on the 1 centimeter mark, you're going to take out a small little piece. Not all the way through, and then just cutting it at an angle again this way. So we can remove this small piece in the middle. On a spare piece of EVA foam, I've marked in 7 centimeters, and I've gone across by 8 centimeters, and I've got a divide line in the middle, which is 4 centimeters. And I'm going to be using these rather fancy looking scissors, which have got a bit of a pattern on it, and I'm just going to cut that little square out. It's actually quite hard to cut the EVA foam with this little tiny pair of scissors, but anyway, that's what I've cut it like. And I'm going to cut it down the center as well, but I'm keeping it attached at the one side so that I can do my designs on it as well. So I've got the piece cut out like that, and now I'm going to do the same random designs that I did on the other pieces on this. The design I'm going for the center piece, I'm just going to be blocking a square around it, the piece where we've cut the edges, and then I'm just going to be doing a circle, and I'm extending the lines just like that. So I'm just going to cut those into my foam now. My little latches are all dry, and I've painted the other side, but now what I need to do is I've marked it so that it can fold over like this. So for it to fold over properly, we're going to have to take out that same little groove that we did by taking out on the side pieces like that. So just taking your cutter and just cut these pieces out here where you want it to fold. So like that. So it folds quite nice over the box. And now I'm just going to paint all of this to match the other side. To paint the sides, I just put a few pieces together and I just hold them with the back end of a pair of scissors, which I find makes it a lot easier. And then you just paint the sides, and then just paint all the sides. Once the side pieces are dry, then we're going to just finish them off with the gold, and just do all of them like that, and then do the other side as well. My clay has been drying for 4 days, and now it's time to paint it. I'm going to be using the same black paint as I used for the rest of the box, so I'm just going to paint the dragon now. To paint my dragon, I'm going to be using this iridescent medium, and I've got a few different color greens because I want to get like an emerald green. So I've got mid green, light green and hooker green dark, and I'm just going to mix them to see which color I like best. So the first one I'm trying is mid green. Quite like that color. Give me a nice iridescent color to it. So I might be going with that one. I've just mixed some phthalo blue with some of the iridescent medium, which gives me this really beautiful colour blue here, which I'm going to just paint on as well. By adding just that little bit of blue, it's given me a really, really beautiful colour. Can't quite see it very nicely on the camera, but it is like a peacock blue emerald green colour. Extremely happy with that. My paint is all dry, and now I'm going to be taking some of this gold, and I'm just taking a very small amount so that I can just add a little bit to some of the places that I want highlighted. So not too many highlights, but it just makes a bit of a difference. To attach my latches onto my box, I'm going to be first of all gluing them down with some hot glue, and I've got these tiny little beads which I'm going to be securing in 4 places because these are going to be worked quite a lot. So I've folded over some black thread 4 times over, and I've just got and I'm just using a circular needle. You can use a straight needle, I just find this one works just that little bit better. On the top of the box where we're going to be placing our catches, on the side of the box I'm putting one of the pieces in place so that I know exactly how far in to glue my catch. So I'm just going to glue that on. I'm just using hot glue to do that. Sorry, I don't think you'll see this, but I'm going to be just opening the box and putting my thread through on the other side as well, so that the needle's coming out through the other side where I want the bead to go. And then we put another bead on. And then we do exactly the same, and we're going through and we're going to put another bead there and there so that it holds this piece securely. I've got it secured in place like that, and now I'm going to be taking some of the gold paint that we used, and I'm just going to be painting those little beads just like that, and then do the same to the other side. I've got both my little latches in place, and now we can start gluing the other pieces on. So for the top part I'm taking the long pieces, and in the corners, so that I get a nice join, I'm going to be just holding them like that, and then I'm cutting them straight from that point to the end. So just line them up straight and then cut so that you get a 45-degree angle like that. I've cut my angles so that they're fitting perfectly like that, and now I'm just measuring from there to this part here, and I'm going to be cutting that little piece so that I can glue just that small piece on, and then we're going to glue the balance on in between, and then doing the same at the end here. And now we can glue that piece down. I've got my pieces lined up like that. I'm just using a pair of scissors and going from the tip of that one to the center to give me my 45. So it sits like that. And now I'm going to glue that small piece in and the side piece on as well. And do the same on the other side. And now we're going to be working on the top at the back. So I've got my piece, once again lining it up like that, but now because I've glued it down, I'm just going to take my box cutter and cut it at the 45 and then glue this one down. So that's the top completed, and now we're going to work on the sides. I left the side pieces intact, so now what we have to do is, where we've got the piece, I've scored it in the middle there so that it fits exactly on top, and then you're going to be doing exactly the same thing by doing the 45 going through there, but only going to the center of this one. So just that little small section there, you're cutting at a 45, and you're doing the same at the bottom here as well, and then we'll get onto the other side. I've lined it up with the end of the box, and now I'm just going to be cutting this small section here. So we've got our pieces like that, and now we can glue these long ones down. And now we're doing the exact same thing on the other side, and we're going to cut along that line as well. I've got the pieces all cut for the side, and now I can just glue those on. And now we can flip the box and do the other side. And now we're going to do the exact same thing for all the other sides. So once again, placing it on the corner and cutting your 45, and then just gluing them down. So do all the corners exactly the same. I've got all the corners in place, and now what you need to do is just touch up where you had to cut so that everything is looking good. So just touch up all the little places that are exposed. To attach my closures, I'm going to be taking a nappy. You can also use Velcros. I just find Velcros is a little bit too strong for the EVA foam, so I've got this little baby's nappy, and these little Velcros ones on the sides here are quite nice and gentle, so I'm going to be cutting that off, and a bit of the soft fastener on the other side, and then going to be gluing it onto the closure. I've got the little piece cut off, and now I just want a tiny bit on each, so I'm going to cut this into two. And then just do the same to the other side. And now to seal all the paint and make it really shine, I'm going to be using this Brilliance sealer finish. It's normally for hard floor, but I find it works extremely well on cardboard and EVA foam. So I'm just going to decant some into a little container, and then we'll paint that on. I'm going to start on the dragon's head first. And for the rest of the box, I've got a chalk, and I'm just wringing it dry, and I'm going to be lightly just going over everything. And as you can see, it really makes the colours pop. and then just cover the whole box like that. I've got some leftover material from when I made Sanchi's 10 rings, and it's just a piece of kind of like foam which I painted black and then I just painted gold, and I'm going to cut 4 strips out at 1 centimetre each. And then I've got some packaging that I got from some paintbrushes that I bought, and I'm going to be cutting it 1 centimetre bigger than the sunken in dragon's eye. So I'm just going to cut that out. I've got the plastic cut out, and I've got my little pieces cut out as well. And to do the corners again, we're going to take them and do the 45° by just holding them in place like that. Taking a pair of scissors and cutting exactly into the corner so that we've got our 45° angle like that. And I'm doing that to all the corners so that we can then glue them down. I've got all my pieces cut, and now I'm going to be using this T8000, and I'm just going to glue those down. And just glue all the pieces down. And using the same glue again, I'm just gluing that on top. I've placed all the foam in, and I've put all the balls in, and now I can put the top cover on and then close it up. And there's my pool ball box completed. Extremely happy the way that turned out. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.